But what are you allowed to do if your daughter has been raped by a Muslim gang in one of these towns, and, for instance, you go to the local authorities and the local authorities tell you that it's your 13-year-old daughter's fault? And I go one other step further on this, something that's come up in the last couple of days as this has got to this extraordinary attention finally. I wrote many years ago when the Oxfordshire grooming gang, rape gang case, actually some of those people did come to trial. I wrote about that one of the heads of the council in Oxfordshire, whose remit, among other things, was the care of children in that constituency. It turned out that the local care authorities had failed on multiple occasions. On one occasion, there was a girl that was meant to be in their care. She had been drugged and groomed and gang raped by a group of Muslim men in Oxford repeatedly. And one night, she managed to escape in a cab and got back to her care home that was overseen by the local council. And when she got there, she couldn't pay for the fare. And the people at the care home who had a duty of care over her didn't pay the fare. The girl's rapists came back and found her and took her away again and did it again. Now, the council head who was in charge of the welfare of girls in that area, many years later, when one of these trials was finished, gave a video, which I actually wrote about at the time. This is more than 10 years ago now. I wrote about it at the time on Spectator. And she gave a video where she said, and I'm going to have to do an impression because it was so disgusting. She said, "I'd like to make an apology for the breakdown of social services that have been exposed in elements of this trial." You would have thought this woman was some railway employee apologising for leaves on the line that meant that the 805 from Oxford to London had been delayed by 20 minutes. Not that she had overseen a system in which people who were meant to have a duty of care over vulnerable girls actually helped the rapists of those girls. It was utterly disgusting. And that's just one case. And there's case after case of that, of police chiefs in Rochester, of councillors in places like Telford, of MPs who knew about this, and then gave mealy-mouthed apologies years later, if they apologised at all. And not one of these people suffered, not just did they not go to prison, most of them didn't even lose their jobs. And the ones who did move on from those jobs moved on to other perfectly good jobs in the same or similar local authorities. And I think that, and I've always thought that, and always said that that is a scandal on top of a scandal. And I'm relieved in some ways that this has finally got some more international attention. But everybody should have known this at the time. And I can say this because a lot of people did know it at the time. And a lot of people tried to raise these concerns. But in the end, Freddie, I'll tell you why it didn't break as a story to the extent it should have done. Police, MPs, council officials, and others, including the CPS, decided it was more important not to give what they saw as a gift to the phantasm of the far right in the UK, not to give them the gift of this story. And, you know, that just goes to a very interesting question in our country, which is the job of the police, the CPS, local councillors, MPs and others to squash stories that might show a community in a bad light, including for cover-ups within that community, because, oh gosh, were there cover-ups. Is it to protect that, or is it actually just to pursue justice and the rule of law? And I'd say it's that, justice and the rule of law. And that was exactly what was put as a secondary or tertiary priority by all of these figures of authority in the UK for a quarter of a century.
Well,